Hiya folks, welcome back. Will here, back for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 70 from Hollywood, Florida, as Lyoto the Dragon Machida makes his return to the octagon to face off against Yoel the Soldier of God Romero. Now this card took a pretty hefty hit last week. There was like 6 fights taken off. There was issues with travel visas. There's been fights thrown together within the last 4 or 5 days. A lot of newcomers have been thrown in. I think I'll be very surprised if at least 1 or 2 fights isn't added to the card by the fight time on Saturday night. Probably people we've never really heard of before. So I'm not going to try and take too much of your time with this. Coming off UFC Berlin last weekend, which Joanna Jędrzejczyk just completely destroyed Jessica Penne. Penne was just fucking mauled, if we're being honest with you there. So she moves on. I think she dislocated her thumb. She'll be out for a little bit, but then she'll be back later on the year to defend the title. So she looked phenomenal. But we're going to get into this card. We're going to start in the welterweight division. We're going to start off with Steve Montgomery against Tony Sims. Now, Steve Montgomery is a guy, some of you may know if you've watched the Ultimate Fighter season. He, the current season is American Top Team against the Black Zillions. American Top Team doing pretty shit in that, if we're being honest with you. The show right about now is they're well down to the Black Zillions. I think they'll probably make a comeback. But Steve Montgomery, 8-2 record. I think 5 of his wins are by TKO. A very long, a very rangy guy, very tall for the weight class, and just pretty tough kind of everywhere. He's good everywhere, and he likes to grapple quite a bit. I've been seeing a lot of his pictures on Twitter. He's been working with Dustin Poirier's striking coach, Dia Davis, and he's been working on that grappling quite a bit. So we never got to see him fight in the show because he blacked out, and due to that medical condition or whatever he had, he got taken off the show. But he's against Tony Sims here, who fights out of the high altitude MMA, which is, I think he trains quite a lot with Brandon Thatch. 9-2 record, with 7 of those wins coming by TKO. With his kind of really only big kind of fight against Drew Dober, where he lost a very close split decision. I watched that fight a few days back. I think it was Sunday I watched that fight. I like Steve Montgomery in this fight. I think he can finish the fight as well. I think that Montgomery's cardio might kind of let him down a little bit, but keep an eye on Sims' cardio because he does train at altitude in Denver, Colorado. But my pick for this fight, I think it's going to be Steve Montgomery. I think he can actually catch him in a submission here, so I'm going to go Montgomery by early submission in round 2. Moving on, we have Leandro Silva against Luis Gonzalez. Now, Leandro Silva is coming off that fucking horrific win against Drew Dober, where the referee stopped the fight when Dober was in no trouble whatsoever. He had the arm round the neck. It wasn't even that hard into the choke. It was very loose, and the ref called it off. He has shown improvements in the UFC with his striking, but he did get taken down by Dober. He's pretty well rounded everywhere. His grappling outshines his striking a lot. Luis Gonzalez is a guy, I've watched his last 4 fights. I watched 2 yesterday and 2 this afternoon against guys who are coming up, and some of the guys you maybe heard of. He fought a guy who's actually fighting for Bellator this week, and Emmanuel Sanchez. He beat him via decision. He was pretty dominant in that fight as well. Used his jab really good too, and just kind of bossed the fight everywhere. Next up, he faced Antonio McKee, who's a veteran of the sport. This was I think a couple of years back in 2013, and he got the technical decision there. Lost to Luis Palomino, who's a brilliant striker, brilliant boxer, and get hit with a knee, and then he followed up with punches to get stopped there. But last time out, he fought a really kind of grizzled fighter, a veteran fighter in Justin Buchholz at World Series Fighting 16 via a very close split decision. So he's getting his chance in the UFC. He's got a 10-1 record, so he deserves his shot in the UFC, and this is a good card for him to do so. But I like Leandro Silva. I just think he's too well rounded for Gonzalez, and I think he will ride out a easy points decision there. Next up, we've got Alex Cowboy Oliveira against Joe Merritt. Now, Cowboy, this is his 3rd fight in 3-4 months possibly, coming off a beautiful submission win over KJ Noons. Before that, he faced Dorino, Gilbert Burns, and probably could have won that fight. He got subbed in the 3rd round, but looked very good, pretty rangy for the division down there. Decent grappler, as we've seen against KG Nunes. As soon as he gets you back, you're in trouble. I like him in this fight, big against Joe Merritt. I watched a couple of Merritt's fights today. He's faced nothing but cans. 6-0 record, 6 wins by knockout. I think Alex Oliveira is going to have enough ring kind of savviness, cage savviness, to get him down to the ground, transition fairly easy, possibly get the back and lock in the rear naked choke. And I could probably see this being if he can stop KG Nunes, who's a decent striker, and take him down, I think he can finish Joe Merritt. So I'm going to go a first round submission here for the Cowboy. Next up we have Hacran Diaz against Levan Makashvili. Hacran Diaz is a guy who's been around for a long time. He 22 3-1 record. I think most of his wins are by submission, but he's got a lot of decisions in there as well. He's very hard to beat in that division, in the featherweight division. He had losses to Nick Lentz and Ricardo Lamas, and he's coming off a really kind of dominant win over Darren Elkins, who's really kind of, they're pretty similar fighters, except I think Diaz is a lot better. He has more ground skills. Showed a nice jab in that fight against Darren Elkins, but he's going to want to take this fight to the ground here against Makashvili, who's coming in. He fought literally a month ago at UFC Manila. He faced Machida. Now, Adiva's predominantly a striker, hit him with some nice strikes, but when Adiva was too aggressive, Makashvili took him down to the ground, dominated him down there, and he kind of did that for all three rounds of the fight. Both pretty similar fighters here, but I like Hacran Diaz experience over Makashvili. I think it's going to be one of these fights where it goes to the ground, and I think Diaz is going to lay on him. So Hacran Diaz via decision. Next up in the middleweight division, we've got Steve Bosse against Thiago Santos. This fight's not going to go at the judge's decision. I'd be very surprised if it does so. Steve Bosse was supposed to fight UFC 186. I think he was lobbying for that before Rampage Jackson got given the fight. We know what was going on with Rampage there. He wasn't allowed because of the Bellator situation. The guy's a former hockey player, and he just loves getting into fights. He's got big power, and I think this could be a little bit of a who gets off first in this fight. Thiago Santos is looking for a second UFC victory, 2 consecutive UFC victories for the first time here. He knocked out Andy Enns last time down in Brazil. Before that, he lost to Uriah Hall, and then before that, he knocked out Ronnie March with a absolutely bone-crushing kick to the body. I think it could pretty much go that way again. I think Bosse's going to come out very quick and look to put Santos down. I think Santos can move away. I think he's the longer reach here, and he's got those devastating body kicks, and I thoroughly expect him to go at the body, and I can see him TKOing Steve Bosse in the first round, if not very early second round. So I'd like to pick Steve Bosse, but I think Thiago Santos has just got more here, so Santos via TKO in the first. Next up, Eddie Gordon against Antonio Carlos Jr. Carlos Jr., I think he was the heavyweight win on the Tough Brazil 3 show, and he's moved down to light heavyweight, lost his last fight there, and he's moved down to middleweight, which if he makes the weight pretty well here, he's going to be a huge guy in this division against a fellow big guy here in Eddie Gordon. Eddie Gordon's coming off that loss to who was it? Chris Dempsey back in New Jersey in April. I thought he won the fight pretty convincingly. I thought he had at least had 2 rounds there. It was a close fight, but this is do or die for Eddie Gordon here. He's a tough winner from a few years back. He's lost his 2 fights. He got head kick KO'd by Josh Saman, and of course that fight against Dempsey here. Antonio Carlos Jr., a very good fighter everywhere. His striking is really coming along at Nova União, working with Dede Pederneiras, and he's got the ground game down there. We've seen on the Tough Brazil show that he's anywhere he goes, saying that show wasn't great for the fighters they had on it, and he stood a class above pretty much everybody on that show, and his submission skills were far superior. I don't think he can keep Eddie Gordon down on the ground. I think Gordon's really tough to take down and kind of keep him there, but Eddie Gordon's gas tank in his last fight was fucking horrendous, and I think if he's like that again, I think Carlos Jr., depending on how good the weight cut goes, is going to dominate him. I would love for Eddie Gordon to win this fight. I met him in Dublin last year. I've been speaking to the guy months beforehand after his win in The Ultimate Fighter. Met up with him, had a few drinks with him in Dublin. Great guy. I would love to pick Eddie Gordon, but I'm going to go up Antonio Carlos Jr. via decision here. Co-main event is actually a really good fight. I can see this ending very, very quickly as well. We have Lorenz Larkin against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Two guys who love to strike and are very quick and very flashy, especially from Lorenz Larkin. Ponzinibbio was more in your face, come forward, being very aggressive. He's on I think he's won his last 2 fights in the UFC after losing to Ryan LaFlare in his debut. And he just gasped pretty badly in that UFC Fight Night Belfort versus Henderson. Came out, LaFlare's he will put you in your ass if you're too aggressive, and he gasped pretty badly in that fight. Knocked out Wendell Oliveira, which is not a big kind of feather in your cap, because Oliveira is not a good fighter, but he did get a very, very impressive win over Sean Strickland last time out. I just like Lorenz Larkin in this fight. He came down from the middleweight division to the welterweight division, and he fucking starched John Howard and knocked John Howard out, and not too many people do that. He showed very fast footwork, very fast hands, and before you know it, John Howard was on his ass and he was looking at the lights. A very quick TKO victory for Lorenz Larkin, and I can actually see Larkin finishing Ponzinibbio here, even though Ponzinibbio has a huge chin, takes a lot of shots and gives a lot back, but I think Larkin's hand speed and his power combined with that is going to really trouble Ponzinibbio. So I'm going to go a second round TKO. I think once Ponzinibbio slows down, I can see Lorenz Larkin taking over and winning this fight here. And then the main event, which is a great main event, I actually just posted on Twitter, I think these last 2 fights should actually be moved to the tough finale the night after UFC 189. I think it would make for a phenomenal card with a great main event. This card's just been hit with everything, left, right and centre. But Lyoto Machida's coming back after that devastating loss to Luke Rockhold. When I first heard about this matchup, I thought, what the fuck is he doing coming back literally less than probably 8 weeks from when he fought in April? And because he took some huge shots in that fight from Rockhold when Rockhold was on his back and just pounding him to the head, and he looked, even at the end of the first round, he looked pretty concussed. But we all know what Machida's like. He's got that karate base, very elusive, great movement, kind of strikes from distance but can catch you at any time. He leaps in with those shots to the body, left hooks, and he just suckles away from shots. But we all know what Yoel Romero is good at here. He is a Olympics wrestler. I think he medalled in there, if I can remember right. Pretty late at night here, so not everything's in the memory bank at the minute. But Yoel Romero coming off that win over Tim Kennedy, which was very, very controversial last time, because a lot of people, including me, I thought he quit on the stool after that second round at UFC 178 last September on the McGregor v Poirier. It was just after, it was on that main card as well, and I thought he was done. Come out in that third round and blitzed Kennedy and knocked him out, and there was a lot of shit after that fight. You quit, this, that, da. But the referee should have probably called the fight if he sat for too long. I just don't think this is a good matchup for Lyoto Machida. Bit too quick in my opinion. Romero has striking prowess if he can keep up with Machida, and he has big power as well. If he can get Machida down here, he can definitely pound him out, and he'll just control him down the bottom. I know Machida has a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, but I don't think it's going to, with the size of Yoel Romero, I don't think it's really going to matter. I like Yoel Romero here. I think he can get a late stoppage victory, so if not, he'll get a decision victory in my opinion. So, I'm going to go a decision victory for Yoel Romero. So that's my picks for UFC Fight Night 70. Now, next time I'm back is for the bumper card, the card of the year, UFC 189 in Las Vegas, Nevada, which I am travelling over for UFC International Fight Week. So if any of my watchers are watching this that want to come and meet me and have a beer, because I will be drinking my ass off that week, come and send me a message and we will meet up and we'll have a few beers. I will be pumping out 3 or 4 videos within maybe a 2-week span, because we have UFC 189 moving on to the tough finale on the Sunday We have San Diego, Mia versus Duffy, and then we have another card I'm going to at UFC Glasgow, Bisping versus Leyte. So they're going to be they're all in the space of a week. So I'll have videos out left, right, and centre for that. But say UFC 189 McGregor v Aldo is just a huge card. Everybody knows I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan, and it'll be interesting I've been watching a lot of footage on Jose Aldo for the last 2 months at least, and it'll be interesting to see this fight live with my own eyes. But I will go more into that next time when I probably put that video out maybe later this week, if not early next week, maybe next Monday. So come follow me at Twitter, Will Martin 7 MMA, and thank you very much for watching.